r/AskReddit. What happened to the bully in your class? He was killed shortly after being released from prison. He apparently had a beef with someone and went to their house with a gun, kicked in their front door, and was immediately shot and killed. Wow, that's rather wild. The boy bully married the girl bully, they had a kid then divorced. Shocking. Mine too. Except for the divorce part. I hope mine raised their kid to be nicer to weirdos than they ever were. He died this summer after graduating high school. Mixed too many drugs and alcohol at a party. Very sad for his younger brother, who was a great person despite his brother. Yeah, I'm pals with my old bully's sister. She's a very nice person, it sucks her brother died. Even if he was annoying. Hang on. Everyone's bully is dead? The kid who used to beat me up every day in 3rd grade I heard crashed a motorcycle and lost both his testicles. So he's got that going for him, which is not nice. You should approach him and say mine are real. Just kidding. Now just call him numbnuts and go about your day. He is in Leavenworth serving a life sentence for murder. No one was surprised when they found this out. I am going to be honest, I am a bit disturbed by how many bullies apparently went on to murder someone. Same thing for my middle school bully, currently in jail for a murder at a drug deal gone wrong. He was the driver but still caught the murder charge. Was a crazy thing. I saw an article about how someone my exact age from my hometown was arrested for murder and made a joke about how I probably knew them, was my middle school bully. His father was caught stealing millions from the community. Dad was a wealth manager and all his clients were friends and neighbors in a sort of small town. The family was really put through the ringer of embarrassment and the bully was a wreck for a long time. I guess he realized all the wealth and arrogance that he grew up with was stolen from everyone he knew. I saw him years later and it was like seeing a different person. He had changed his name, walked differently and held himself with a different posture. We spoke for a few minutes and it was almost like he was genuinely interested in me. He didn't go out and say sorry for what he had done, but it seemed like he wanted to, but though it would be tacky, maybe I'm reading too much into that interaction, but it was a little weird. It was like he had been forcing himself to be an actual nice guy. I'm gay. I wasn't out of the closet as a kid, but everyone knew. A bull-like friend once told me you're incredibly butch until you move or open your mouth. Many guys were nasty to me about it. At my 30th anniversary, those of them who were there each approached me individually to tell me they were sorry, it was wrong of them and they had learned better. It was surprisingly moving and I appreciated it from each guy. Wow, that's a really nice story of how people can learn and change. Prison for killing people by lighting a diner on fire. Right? This is not something you read every day. Back in late 70s, early 80s. Just read it in paper to no surprise. Think he set it on fire after hours just as arson, but didn't know some staff were trapped in kitchen. Found out he got out of jail years later, PA, and is in CA prison now, but not sure the crime. Beat a fellow drug dealer to death during a transaction gone bad. Sentenced for murder, but then somehow it was downgraded to manslaughter. Served about 10 years and judging from his FB posts, I know his brother, he has a girlfriend, a job, and has cleaned up his act. Edit to add what happened. Just looked up the story. He was convicted of second-degree murder with depraved indifference. Then the State Court of Appeals changed the law interpreting the definition of the charge. The federal court vacated the conviction, finding that the defendant was factually innocent of depraved indifference murder. He agreed to plead to the lesser charge of manslaughter. So he had already served 10 years and was released after the plea to manslaughter. You see, all it took was a little bit of support and murder. Asterisk bit of support and manslaughter. I don't know where you are, and I am not a lawyer, but, as far as I know, in the eyes of the court, murder is premeditated. If he beat a guy to death in a drug deal gone bad, I can totally see a lawyer shaking that down to manslaughter charge. I'm not saying it was right or anything. But that's likely the somehow it got changed. In America, I believe first degree is premeditated, but second degree can be considered impulsive. I am also not a lawyer, hahaha. That's correct. Murder in the first degree is premeditated, i.e. waiting in the bushes outside of someone's house to shoot them. Second degree would be more like you get into an altercation and suddenly you smack him with a brick on the ground and keep hitting him with it until he's dead. Manslaughter is something like you shove someone and they fall and hit their head on the curb just right and breaks their neck and kills them. The intention of shoving them wasn't to cause serious harm, but it still happened and resulted in their death. Edit, I don't read it often and realized you have dozens of replies saying exactly what I said. Bro called Saul. My grandpa chased my aunt's abusive husband down the street while shooting at him and he got off on self-defense LMAO, RIP grandpa you were the man. So anyway Gramps just started blasting. LOL gotta cash in on that end of life credits. My class got hit by a car and didn't go to school for a whole year, then he skipped school for the next year, literally the entire year. Then he finally got expelled and I never saw him or heard anything about him. I was bullied so bad by a kid in middle school I switched to a school in the next town over. Ran into him in high school at the YMCA. I had hit puberty by then and was way bigger than him at this point. I asked to guard him and I played as dirty as I could. Knee to the chest when he tried to block my layup. Elbows flying everywhere at all times. Bone-crunching picks. Never said a word to him. Just beat him up as much as I thought I could get away with while generally staying within the rules. I know it was petty AF, but it was cathartic. Never saw him at the Y again. I'm sure this is true, but it's also 100% my 9 years old fanfic type of writing. I saw him rush the field at an NFL game and get arrested. Good times. This is the first one that made me laugh. LOL. The autistic kid beat him in Spanish class within an inch of his life, flipped over the desk, picked this dude's body up and slammed him, kidneys first, into one of the legs. Johnny was just your normal, happy-go-lucky video game fan. We went to see the original Mortal Kombat movie in theaters when it came out. It was my second movie-going experience. I was just a newly transplanted immigrant and Johnny was the only kid who didn't pick on me. He was cool. Johnny was heavy-set, with glasses. One was a gangbanger. Real cholo-looking dude. He and his friends were pretty terroristic. In retrospect, I'm sure Juan had a terrible upbringing because he took it out on everyone around him. For months he kept picking on Johnny. Months. Juan was a scary guy, and I had gotten into my share of scraps, but I wanted no part of this guy. This abuse went unchecked. One broke John's glasses and it was just persistent. I don't remember all of it, other than Johnny just became more and more reclusive with time and he was always bruised in some way, shape, or form. One day, in Spanish class, Juan said something to Johnny about his mom. This was before the bell rang for class to start. This was the final straw. I remember John letting out this guttural, primal scream and lunging from his desk toward Juan. Johnny began hammer fisting Juan all over the head, his shoulders, arms, like flipping Garo would in MK. Just unleashing everything he had on this holy gangbanger. There came a point when Juan looked out of it, like a limp noodle, and that was when John, still possessed by this unrelenting rage, flips the desk over, and underhand flips/body slams Juan into one of the legs of the desk. Juan let out this horrible cry of agony, and that was that. The teacher walks in, they call the campus police, and the rest is a blur. I don't remember what happened to John after this as I never saw him again, but I do remember hearing from an acquaintance back several years that Juan was in jail for aggravated robbery. Guess he didn't learn his lesson. Thank you Johnny for being a friend and for not judging me while I learned the language here and adjusted to my new life. I hope all is well with you.